Hey, Adam here. Welcome back. Welcome to the second part of our two-part social media extravaganza. Now we're going to talk about communicating with a purpose, strategies, and such. And what I mean by this is, so think of like everybody has that business from their hometown that has a Facebook page, and they like want you to be their friend because they weren't bright enough to make a page instead of a profile, or they have like a Twitter account or something. And you're like, what are you doing here? You're here. What's your message? Every business needs a message. Like every mission-driven nonprofit needs a message. So this is the section where we talk to you about how to be strategic about your communication so that you're not just like showing up at the party, but that you're there on a mission. And hopefully it'll help you be successful, so that whenever you make your communication plan, like we have some kind of goal in mind, so that you're not just randomly taking up space on Facebook. All right, so our objectives for the day: we're going to learn about the challenges and opportunities of communicating. We're going to know how to be strategic when developing a plan, and we're going to talk about best practices for communicating in several different communication channels. Great. Steps in a communication plan. Remember that the first step, very important here, first step is never communicating. this seems self-evident, but it's a real thing. Like first step is not talking. Here they are. The first step is actually to identify objectives. And then you want to choose your target audiences, design your key messages, select your communication methods, plan for two-way communication, establish a time frame, and plan how to implement the plan, which is like inception planning. Anyway, and this is what we're going to go through in detail. Ready? Let's go. All right. So first job, identify objectives. This seems like it should be a thing that most people would do, but they don't. This is the point at which you sit down in your group or at your business or organization later in life, and you say, why do we want to be on Facebook? Why do we want to be on Twitter? What is our goal here? Like, what is my purpose in communicating? What do I want to accomplish? What do I want people to think or feel or do whenever they read my posts? All right. And so whatever that is, there's no wrong answer, but you need to think about that. And that is the thing that drives the rest of this plan. And so, for example, if you're like the group that has like the seed feed store, like maybe you just want to offer like really good advice, like for people for planning in hopes that they'll come in and like buy your products. That's an okay objective. Like we want to, sell seed. If you're the wildlife, federation group, maybe you want for people to, know more about a particular breed of animal that's going extinct. I don't know what it is, but you need to figure out in your organization what it is. And we're going to give you time in class this coming Thursday to meet about this kind of thing, and Antonio and I will be there to answer questions. Whenever you write these objectives, you need to write them as SMART objectives, SMART. And that stands for, let's see if I can do this, specific, measurable, meaningful, attainable, whatever R stands for, and timely. The important thing is that there is a document on the Scholar page for this lesson that will help you. And, people write objectives really poorly all the time. And so this is the thing where we're going to practice to hopefully get it right. So, an objective that's bad would be, we want for people to know about wolves. Yeah, no. So we want to be specific, right? So like what kind of wolves, what people, is that meaningful? Is it like, how are you going to measure that? How are we going to know, and so a better thing might be to, to engage or to, engage like all third graders in Montgomery County on, this particular species of wolf during the year 2013. 15. So that is an example of a good objective, because it's specific, meaningful, measurable, all that good stuff. We'll come back to that. All right, so choose your target audience. Anybody, if I ever ask you, who is your intended audience, and you say to me, the public, I'm going to smack you, because the public is not a real audience. Like the public is made up of all these smaller niche groups, and those are the people that you want to communicate with. So, if you're that seed feed store, are you communicating to the public? No. you're communicating to farmers, maybe specifically farmers that farm a specific crop in a specific region. Maybe they're a certain age. Like maybe you only want to work with the farmers that have been around a while and are established. You don't want to deal with those like up and comers that are farming like a half acre. No. So think about things that are demographic, like what are your ages? Like what's the education level of your group that you're trying to reach? What are their values? What things do they already know? And write those things out. All right, step number 3, design your key message by audience. So once you've decided your audience, what you hope to accomplish, now ask yourself, what do these people need to understand or know in order for your program to be successful? What would they want to know about your program if you lived in the community? And you could supplement program with product, like whatever you're selling, whatever you got, sub that in there. And is there any information that should not be shared? That's another thing to take into account. So think of these things. And so make sure that your key messages are strategic, right? Like what is most important for your information or for your organization to get out there, Great. Number 4, select the communication method. This one's pretty straightforward, right? So like you would not, for example, if you were choosing to communicate with octogenarians, that's 80-year-olds, by the way, decide that you want to do Pinterest, because that's probably not the best match for them. So think about your audience, think about your message that you're hoping to communicate, and then look at the local situation. Are there any specific hindrances that hold you back, any opportunities? What's your target audience preferences? Like there's different age groups prefer different methods. So for example, like I think the 30 to 45-year-old crowd actually prefers Facebook for most things, whereas a younger group, like high school to early college, would prefer Instagram. So these are things you need to take into account. Risk management, are there any methods that are a risk to the audience? Usually what we're thinking of here is like privacy, cyberbullying, those kinds of things. Like if you're trying to reach 12-year-olds, do you want to engage them on Facebook? Probably not, because they're not allowed to be there, and then you run into a whole host of problems. Resources, what do you have that's available? Like do you have the time to devote to this in your organization? And then finally, two-way communication. Do we have a plan for gathering feedback? And that's actually the next one. In general, online today, people want to be able to talk back. All right, this is what you've heard the term Web 2.0. Web 1.0 sucked. I was there, and it was just terrible HTML web pages where people just posted stuff. Web 2.0 allowed people to communicate back, and so like things like Facebook and Twitter were Web 2.0 technology. They allowed people to communicate back to the person that was sending the message, and so people expect that nowadays. So they are probably not going to be as engaged with you if you just throw up like a blog or a website, and then you're just putting information out there. You don't really care what anybody has to say. So what they want is to be able to talk back. Sorry, I've talked all around this. So find a way to allow them to do this, and so it can be, formal or informal. It can be complicated or simple, whatever works for you. I mean, it could be as simple as you're going to allow Facebook comments. You're going to once a day have somebody read all the tweets that people have tweeted at you and reply to them, so that just gives you, a plan. That's a plan. You don't really need to see that. The next thing is to establish a time frame for your campaign. Remember, you're writing a campaign here. So is this an ongoing message or a limited time message? And so what I mean by this is, say your campaign is to get people to plant like a specific type of seed. Like you would do that at a particular type of year, because the other 3/4 of the year, they're not planting things, and you would make no sense. If you were selling bathing suits, do you want to do that in December? No. So figure out like what the appropriate time is for your campaign and plan around that. All right. The next thing, implement the plan. This doesn't have to get super complicated, but what I want you to do is to make something similar to this, and figure out who's going to do what and when. And so, for example, who will develop materials, who will draft a copy, who will be posting and sharing. You're not actually going to do these things, but I want you to get in the habit of making a plan, because what happens if you don't have a plan, it doesn't get done. All right, now you try. Anyway, so here's the thing, if we were in class, we would have given you an option. Here's a way that I think makes it easier to understand what I'm asking you all for. So for each objective, like, write out your objective, and then it flows into which audience, and the audience then flows into what key message or messages, and then what communication methods. And I've asked you for 3 to 5 methods, or 3 to 5 objectives. So when you're done with this one, you come back to the next objective and then you think, all right, what's our audience for this objective? What messages did they need to receive? What methods? And so on and so forth. You guys have been really hipping with it so far, so I think that you're going to get this. So just keep that in mind. All right, that was pretty good. I think that's all that I have for you all today. That's probably enough information. So again, going back to this, oh no, renew website. Please, please, please take a look at these things. I have painstakingly read so many things, and I found these to be the most useful. And I want for you to take a look at them because this is where the bulk of the information for social media comes from. So great. All right, super fantastic. Thank you all for listening. We look forward to seeing you on Thursday.